One of the hardest things about being a solopreneur is that you do feel like you are siloed and you're kind of in the weeds of your own business and just hyper focused on what's in front of you. And I think that that can actually be quite limiting at times. So it's important to be able to collaborate with other people, to have conversations with other people, to be inspired by other people. In general, I wouldn't say that there's one retreat that I'm looking to and saying that's the one, but in general, I would say that there are a number of people in my community who have either talked about...
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets, the podcast where we talk with successful career coaches on how they built their success and the hard lessons they learned along the way. My name is Davis Nguyen, and I'm the founder of Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, and even $100,000 weeks. Before Purple Circle, I've grown several 7- and 8-figure career coaching businesses myself, and have been a consultant at 2 career coaching businesses that are doing over $100 million each. Whether you're an established coach or building your practice for the first time, you'll discover the secrets to elevating your coaching business.
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets Podcast. I'm Kevin, and today we are joined by Courtney Stanley. She's been a coach for the last 8 years. Welcome to
Thanks,
the
Kevin.
podcast.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. You know, one thing about your background, 8 years is not a short amount of time. You've clearly been in the industry for quite a while. So I want to start at the beginning, your origin story, the lore. What was that moment when you realized that you wanted to become a coach and, more importantly, turn it into a business?
My coaching business started from a place of mentorship. I still to this day love to mentor, and it's something that I was looking to do. It's something that I was excited to do. It's something that I was asked to do in my industry. I come from the meetings and events space. So I'm a full-time speaker as well as a public speaking coach now. But at the time I was speaking for free, submitting proposals, raising my hand to take the stage just for the purpose of sharing knowledge. And that desire to share knowledge really came from a place of loving to mentor. And so the coaching part of my business actually came from, it was a really organic moment where one of the members in the audience had listened to my speech, felt really inspired, felt like there was a lot of value, and felt like she wanted to dive in deeper. And so it actually was her asking me to coach her that led me to develop this revenue stream in this part of the business. And that was back in 2017. And it's been a pretty organic growth since then, really.
I'm very curious too. How did you decide who you wanted to help and what do you help these people with? Let's talk minutes.
So my coaching business has evolved over the years, which is, I think, something that a lot of entrepreneurs and coaches can relate to. You start out in one area, you try some things, you see what works, you see what doesn't. You also figure out who's drawn to your work and what you really actually want to do, what you're passionate about. And so my coaching business began as just kind of generic career coaching. It was for people who wanted to do more, who wanted to climb faster, who wanted to make a name for themselves. And that really, over the years, has transpired into a more specific focus, which is visibility. So people who want to be more visible in their particular industry. It can be any industry across the board, but people who know the influence and the power that creating a brand has. And so how can they get in more spaces? How can they get more opportunities, whether it's to be interviewed on podcasts like these, or it's to take the stage and share your knowledge, or it's to write articles, or whatever that thought leadership content lane may be. And so I focus on visibility with a specific lens on public speaking. People who really understand that taking the stage is one of the most effective ways to position yourself as a thought leader in your space. And so it could be for people who want to simply raise the bar and become a better, more polished, more confident speaker. Or it could be people who are like me who want to actually make a career out of public speaking. So that's really the space that I'm in.
And so let's talk about marketing for a second. How do people usually find you? If I had to make a guess, public speaking is probably part of it. But I would love to hear
it definitely
from you.
is. Many of my leads come from the stage. So if I give a compelling presentation and people are feeling really inspired afterward, that's a really, really great way for me to get a number of qualified, warm leads versus, thinking of the traditional going out and marketing through cold sales and scraping lists and putting in a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to get those clients. Taking the stage offers an opportunity to showcase your value for an extended period of time and really give people what they're looking for in that moment, and then give them an opportunity to dive deeper. So I would say taking the stage for sure is a great way for me to get clients. Word of mouth is also great too, though, because of the work that I do where I'm preparing people to create more of an amplified presence or brand. They're also starting to get out there more. And most of my clients, if not all, will give me a lot of credit for that moment that they have on stage. So there's a lot of opportunity for word of mouth. And then I would say third would be LinkedIn. I'm very intentional about my activity on LinkedIn and have spent probably about 15 years at this point building a really healthy network on LinkedIn from all of the audiences that I've spoken to and the people that I've met along the way. And so LinkedIn is a place where people can consistently see the value that they would gain from working with me as a coach. So those would be the top three.
Really interesting. Yeah. And I'm so curious because I think compared to the other guests that we've had on this podcast, you're definitely more in on the public speaking side. And so how does one kind of get in? I feel like once you kind of get in the space, it kind of like there's a pinwheel effect, right? But how do you start off with the first one usually?
It's not as complicated as people would think. If you have any interest in public speaking, the best way or the best advice that I can give you is to look for conferences within your space, within your industry, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you work in pharma, whether you work in architecture. Look for the educational conferences that are happening in your space. There is always a call for speaking proposals for those conferences. So it's not just the main stage paid speakers who are doing the opening and closing keynotes, but there are often many breakout sessions that are happening, different workshops that are happening, really great opportunities that are on a smaller scale for you to step in and start practicing those skills. So the way that I got into this field was just that. I was 22 when I first took the stage at a professional conference, and it was an opportunity that I had submitted a proposal for to share knowledge with other students and young professionals who are in about the same age group as me, to teach them what I had learned already about networking, about mentorship, about doing the things that I was doing to get my name out there at that stage in my career. So a lot of people, this is the number one question that I ask: how did you become a speaker? It started out by simply submitting proposals to speak for free, and then continuing to do that year over year until I had reached a point where a mentor had actually leaned in and told me, "You've been speaking for 5 years now for free. It's time to charge. It's time to change your focus and the direction that your business is going and start really putting a price tag on the value that you're bringing to the table." So yeah, that's where I would start. If I could give anybody advice, is start with some low-hanging fruit, get in with your local professional association, apply for their educational conference, and just start somewhere.
Yeah. So you mentioned the people that you typically help. I'm sure it's a wide demographic of people who have subject matter expertise and stuff.
No, that's a great question too, Kevin, because a lot of my clients come from the meetings and hospitality world, which also includes tourism and travel, because that's where my career started. So I spent the most time nurturing and building those relationships in that space. But today, my clients come from all different industries. So I have worked with people who are in tech. I've worked with people in finance, in healthcare, in architecture, which I mentioned before, in education, higher education. I have had the opportunity to work with a lot of different types of people from different industries, because the work that I do, whether it's speaking or coaching, a lot of it translates across those fields: leadership development, brand amplification, public speaking development. Those are all skills that people are looking to develop regardless of the field that they're in.
And let's kind of talk about the business. So once people find out about you, they're kind of interested in working with you and you actually work with them, what do your different coaching modalities look like? I know some people love doing one-on-one, some people do like group coaching. Which ones have you kind of resonated to?
As of now, I have only focused on one-on-one coaching. And the reason why I have done that so far is because the type of work that I do is so customized and it's so personal to the individual that I'm working with. So sure, I could teach a class, I could teach a workshop on the skills that I'm translating, but the way that I like to approach coaching is from a very unique individual standpoint. Each person that chooses to work with me, that chooses to hire me as their coach, is coming in with their own insecurities, with their own skill sets, with their own goals in mind. And I could do that in a group coaching setting, but it wouldn't have the same impact as it would if I were to really give them that one-on-one mentor attention that I do in the programs that I have. So I've dabbled with some group coaching here and there, and I think it's really valuable, but it doesn't quite make the same impact in the work that I do as a one-on-one session or series of coaching sessions would.
And you mentioned, I don't think of the word level of involvement or the level of attention that you give to your one-on-one clients as well. I'm kind of curious. So one of the things, if you're open to it, I love to talk about like pricing strategy, because this is where a lot of coaches struggle the most. Obviously, you don't have to give any hard numbers or anything like that. But when you're structuring your pricing, especially if it's so intimate, what kind of pricing models do you kind of go towards? I know some people do some sort of project base, some people have a retainer, some people do some sort of outcome based. Which ones have you kind of like noticed yourself going towards?
The pricing structure that has worked for me has not been on retainer. So it's been a very focused amount of time with a very specific goal in mind. So my pricing structure is dependent on, do they want to really dive in deep over a long period of time? Do they have goals that need time to be able to build and flourish? And if so, then we're going to stretch out our time together, maybe in I've worked with somebody for 2 to 3 years before. I've worked with somebody for 6 months before. It's really dependent on their individual goals and how long it's going to reasonably take for us to work through those goals together. Now, most of my clients I work with between 3 and 4 months. So we're working at a pretty steady pace. It's not overly ambitious, but it meets the needs that they have in regard to the capacity that they have. The reason why I try to be as flexible as I can with the different individuals that I work with is because everybody's got their own stuff going on. Somebody could come to me and they have quit their job and they're ready to go and there's not much else on their plate. Somebody could come to me and they just had a baby a month ago and they're going back to work in 4 months. And so I really try to meet them where they're at and then design the coaching program to fit the needs that they have.
Yeah, that's really interesting. It seems like you kind of meet the client where they're at. And
Yeah, I think it's important to meet people where they're at because as a coach, I'm not the one that's doing the work. I'm facilitating the work. So if they're not in a place where they're able to do that work, then I need to be flexible to their needs.
Yeah. I think that's what makes a really good coach sometimes. I think about the coaches I had or the coaching engagement I used to do. And the worst ones were always the savior complex ones where they're like, oh, do everything for me, save me. I'm like, oh my God, it feels very overwhelming. But I think what you were talking about, being a catalyst for people, that's what you are at the end of the day.
Sure.
Okay. Very curious. Let's talk about your future goals for a second. So where do you kind of want this coaching business to take you in the next few years? Do you have any secret dreams, big ambitions that no one knows about?
You want all the secrets, all the tea, Kevin? I'm always down to spill the tea.
Yes.
Something that I have been daydreaming about for years now is hosting my own retreat. And I haven't done it yet. It's a big investment. It's something where I think you need a lot of time to develop the right community that would buy in and invest in something like a weekend together where they're taking time away from their lives, their families, their own responsibilities. But it's something that I have been thinking about for a while now. And I think because the work that I do really does, let's take public speaking, for example. People want to develop the courage and the confidence to do something very vulnerable, which is step on a stage in front of a number of people, whether they're peers or strangers, and use their voice to tell a story. That type of work requires a lot of vulnerability and personal deep work in order to really develop the skills, but also the confidence to do that. So if I think about a retreat, I think about people coming together and doing the deep work, but doing it in a space where people are able to openly share the internal struggles that they have with this type of work. And it creates more of an opportunity to have community and support around you, which, yes, you could argue you could do in a virtual group coaching setting. And I think it could be powerful, but I don't think that there's anything that's quite the same as having an experience in person with other individuals who are going through these same exercises and these same awakenings and these same moments for growth. So I would say that's probably the one thing that's on my mind right now that I will probably end up doing in the next couple of years for sure.
Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned the deep work and the internal work. I'm very fortunate to have a really close friend on YouTube. His name is Christo, and he has this viral clip going saying that like the best thing you can do for your personal brand is go to therapy or something like that. It was like trending, and that's why I'm so glad that you mentioned the internal work. For your retreats, do you grab inspiration for the retreats that you have planned in your mind? Do you grab inspiration from anybody hosting retreats right now?
For sure. I think one of the hardest things about being a solopreneur is that you do feel like you are siloed and you're kind of in the weeds of your own business and just hyper focused on what's in front of you. And I think that that can actually be quite limiting at times. So it's important to be able to collaborate with other people, to have conversations with other people, to be inspired by other people. In general, I wouldn't say that there's one retreat that I'm looking to and saying that's the one, but in general, I would say that there are a number of people in my community who have either talked about doing something like this or who have taken the leap and hosted a retreat like this. And it's really amazing to hear the testimonials that come out of those couple of days that people spend together, and also to see the ways that they decide to construct a program for these individuals, because it's a full experience. It's not just an hour of coaching, but it's a full experience from the moment that you wake up to the moment that you go to sleep. So yeah, for sure. I feel like I'm always looking for inspiration, and I'm finding inspiration quite frequently.
Where do you feel like, if you were to make a prediction in the next, let's say you're going to host it in the future, where do you feel like it's going to be? Where would you do this?
Oh my gosh. Well, okay. So everybody's going to Bali, so I can't pick Bali because everybody's doing retreats in Bali. So I'm not going to pick Bali. I think I would go to Costa Rica. I love Latin culture. I think Latin culture is so communal. I think it's so vibrant. It's so fun. It's familial. I think Costa Rica offers a lot of opportunity to ground yourself in beautiful Mother Nature, but it also has such that pura vida flavor. There's so much life there and so much beauty and excitement. So Costa Rica. Yeah, we'll leave Bali to other people. We'll do Costa Rica.
Yeah, I was just in Indonesia and stuff, and there's so much traffic over there.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you said Costa Rica. I'm also curious too, like for your business, have you ever considered hiring, or have you hired in the past too?
I have, yeah. I do
have.
have an assistant. I also have people that I contract. So I try to keep my business as lean as possible, which means at this point, no employees, nobody is salaried, but I have a team of experts that I can call on when I need something, when I need their level of knowledge, skill set, that kind of thing. I do have an assistant that works with me on a consistent basis. So he has certain projects that he does for me every single week. And honestly, that has been really helpful to me in terms of accountability, because it's so easy to let things slide when you're not reporting to anybody. So to have an assistant that is waiting for me every single week to deliver him certain things for him to do his job has been really, really helpful in staying consistent with the content that I'm developing, with the marketing that I'm working on, those types of things.
As you're thinking about the retreats, as you are growing your business, what are some challenges and bottlenecks that you're noticing in your business right now that most people from the outside wouldn't be able to see?
I have faced a number of different challenges over the years, and it's been dependent on so many different factors that have been external. So COVID being one thing, recessions being another thing. There have been different external challenges that I have walked through over the years that I have found to actually be very fueling and very motivating. I'm very much somebody who, if there's a problem, I want to find a solution. If somebody tells me no, I'm going to find a yes, or I'm going to create a yes. And I think that's what really inspired me to become an entrepreneur, was that I didn't want to be told no. I wanted to do my own thing. I wanted to build my own product, my own community, my own legacy. But I will say, the most difficult challenge that I have faced in my business has not been an external factor. It's been an internal challenge, where I would say over the last 2 years, I started to burn out. I was traveling a lot. Business was going really, really well, but I was not given an opportunity to rest as much as I probably needed to. But it wasn't just the logistical burnout. It was also, I think, a little bit of a burnout of passion and purpose, where I started to get bored in the business. And from the outside looking in, you would never know that. But to be the person that is responsible for innovating, for creating, for building constantly year over year, when you lose that sense of motivation, that has been the most difficult uphill battle that I have faced in the business, because when you don't move, the business doesn't move either. And so that challenge forced me to take a step back and to really do my own deep work and to reevaluate why I was in the space that I'm in. Am I doing the work that I want to be doing? Am I working with the people that I want to be working with? Do I want to continue with the business, or do I want to completely do something different? Do I want to work for somebody else? I had to ask all of these tough questions and have real conversations with myself, but more importantly, with other people that I trust. And that's where I think the perspective of understanding the importance of community, of collaboration, of having conversations comes from, because I wasn't able to pull myself out of the weeds enough to have those conversations alone. I needed other people to hear what I was saying, to offer feedback, to offer ideas, and to help open my eyes to some of the questions that I was asking.
I really like that you mentioned that. My good friends, she's on social media too. Her name's Vanessa Lau. Seeing her take like a sabbatical when she was feeling that exact way, it helps so much. And it makes me happy to see her nowadays invigorated and having purpose again and feeling like she's coming back more than ever. So I really appreciate you sharing about your story, about your own personal burnout and all that as well. I would like to play a game with you if you're down for
It definitely reminded me of the movie Saw for a second, not gonna lie. My head immediately went to the movie Saw, where he's like, want to play a game, and it's super creepy and weird and bad.
Yeah. Let me put on my mask and go
what kind of game? Yeah.
I'm like working on trying to make more fun games for this podcast, but this game is a little boring. It's called Good Investment, Bad Investment. And so I'm kind of very curious about like your best business investment on your coaching business and the worst thing that you spent on your coaching business that you wish you could get your money back. So what is your best investment?
This is a really difficult question, because I am so lean with my finances. So I really have to think about this. I would say my best investment, would probably be the money that I have spent to attend other events and conferences. My life revolves around me getting on a plane and going to conferences and taking the stage, or going to the conferences and networking. And I'm in it to win it. I'm in it for the business. But I think some of the best money that I've spent has been simply attending, not hustling, not grinding, but attending other people's events and experiences to just participate and immerse myself in somebody else's world, in somebody else's magic, in somebody else's content, in somebody else's knowledge. I would say that's been the best investment that I've made. The worst investments have always been spending the money when I'm not ready. And I think coaching clients do this too, where they get really excited they've seen you speak, they've seen your content, they've listened to your podcast, they get really excited for that moment. They sign up for something, your coach is thrilled, but they're not actually ready to do the work. They don't have the capacity, they don't have the energy, they don't have the focus. The opportunities that I have spent money on have been things like investing in a team to write a book when I haven't been ready. There was one other one that I was trying to think of. Rebuilding my website when I didn't actually have the capacity to do it at that time, or I didn't know what I was even reinventing. I just knew my website needed a refresh. So it's been when I've known that I needed to or should do things, but I haven't actually had the focus or capacity to do it at that time.
How did those moments change the way that you invest? How do you decide what to invest in and what not to invest in these days?
I think the question is, what is it that you need? What's going to be the return on that investment? And do you have the capacity and focus to commit to seeing this investment through right now? those are the questions that I would ask myself.
Final advice from you. Okay, I hope this never happens to you, but let's say your business goes under. You have to start over tomorrow, day one. You don't have any followers, no clients, no relational capital that you have right now, but you have all the wisdom that you do have right now. I guess what I'm curious about is what would your first 90 days kind of look like to rebuild the business?
Oh my gosh, am I starting a new business or am I just starting this business over again?
No relationships whatsoever. And I know that's a major thing for a lot of experienced people.
Okay, that is a great question. So I have no relationships. Sounds very depressing. I have no relationships.
Sorry.
I have no friends. I have no peers. Honestly, I would do it the same way. I would make small changes along the way, but the way that I started my business was not having a network. It was everybody has to start from somewhere. And I think that's what people don't realize is they see really successful people and they don't realize that at some point they started an Instagram account with no followers. At some point, they started a YouTube channel with no views. So for me, that start was submitting a proposal to speak at a conference when nobody knew my name. I would do the same exact first step that I did the first time because it worked so well. It was the easiest way for me to build a brand, to build a network, to promote my services, to practice the skills I needed to have to be a successful speaker, but to also learn how to translate and teach those skills to somebody in a coaching capacity. So I would take the exact first step all over again. 90 days, I would also be pushing out a decent amount of content. So this is, of course, skipping the step of what are you trying to accomplish? We're skipping the step of making a roadmap, right? You need time to figure out what you want to do, who you think your target audience is, what it is that you are an excellent somebody at. So we're skipping those steps and we're going right to the tactics. But I would also be putting out a lot of content and I would be looking at where are the people that are on these platforms that I'm trying to reach and what is the type of content that's exciting for them today, especially YouTube, TikTok. Those are probably the top two platforms to target right now. So I would be focused on there and just building and staying as consistent as possible while trying to get FaceTime in real life as well.
That's a lot of energy. That's a lot of
I mean, it
driving.
is, but it's like, it's required. It's required.
So something that I've noticed, especially on YouTube, I'm really big on YouTube, is this whole concept of soft entrepreneurship, right? And people kind of balancing the hard entrepreneurship of like grind, hustle, and all that sort of stuff versus like, what are your thoughts on that? How do you balance like, okay, you've been pushed to the, like based off your story, you've been pushed to the edges of burnout. And how do you balance your workload nowadays?
That's a great question. For me, it's been important to make sure that the way that I spend my time is not just draining my energy, but it's also filling my cup. So the reason why I got burned out, there were two reasons. One is that I was traveling way too much. And so I had to stop saying yes to every opportunity that came my way and start to be more intentional about the travel opportunities that I had, both personally and professionally. So that's one thing. And then I would say on the other side, the other thing that I found draining was if I chose the wrong clients to work with. So you don't have to say yes to every client. And that's hard because as an entrepreneur, you always want to make more money. You want your business to grow. You want to scale your business. And so it's really tempting to say yes. And there are certain personalities that may be more draining than others. There are certain things that clients will ask of you that maybe require more time, energy, and attention than others. So I had to learn to say no a lot more to both travel opportunities, but also to people opportunities where I knew the person, or in our intake conversation, I knew that it was going to require more than I was willing to give or that I should be giving. So that's how I would say, I don't think you can build a business and not work hard. There's going to be a grind. There's going to be a hustle. It's just part of what it is. And that's not a bad thing. That can actually be a really amazing way to grow as a person. But I think that it is important to have and energy for other things in your life.
Oh, you mentioned not taking on certain clients, right? And so one of the things I'm fascinated about are like dating books, and they always talk about like, or dating Instagram posts and stuff like that. And they always talk about red flags, right? So what are some red flags when it comes to like clients and stuff, the ones that you shouldn't take that you wish you could tell yourself back in the day?
So again, I feel like you're asking for the tea. You're
Yeah.
definitely asking for the tea. I'm going to give a wise answer first, and then I'll give you some tea. So I would say from a place of wisdom, listen to your gut. Without fail, on every single call that I have, I will either feel good and excited about a client, or I'll feel bad and concerned about working with a client. And it's a very clear yes or no from your gut. Your head will start to step into the conversation and say, but, you can make this money, or but, you can do these things. But your gut will always tell you right away. And this is in any situation, in business, in personal, your gut will never steer you wrong. So that's the first thing that I listen to is, do I feel good about this, or do I feel concerned about this? If it's a concern, I need to, for myself and my sanity, do the work to understand why I feel that way. But at the end of the day, it's still a concern. So it's got to be a no. Now, in terms of the red flags, somebody who has no idea what they actually want to accomplish is a red flag. Because for me as a coach, it's really important that I feel that I'm able to deliver value. And so if they don't know what they actually want to accomplish, then we're going to sit in our sessions and I'm going to feel like I'm not giving them anything because there's no structure, there's no direction, there's no goal. And I don't want to misalign on the work that they need to do or that they want to do. So that's one thing. I would also say that there was one client that I did decide to work with who just walked into our space with a lot of ego. And the work that I do, there's not a lot of space for ego because we're trying to develop skills that will help people connect on a human level with other people. And so if they're unable to get out of their own way and put this persona aside and actually just be a person first and leave the ego at the door, it's hard to be able to coach somebody who is not as open to feedback, who thinks that they may already have the answers. And so why are you hiring me as a coach? So there are certain personalities, I think, that can be really wonderful and open to feedback and wanting to learn and very humble. And then there are some people who walk in the door thinking that they know 98% of it already, but for some reason, they're there with you doing that work. Now, I will say the person that came in with the ego, we were able to put aside and actually do the work, and it would come in and play every now and then. But for the most part, we were able to put it aside. But that was one client that I did have a concern about my ability to coach them and their ego. And it ended up working out, but it's not black and white. But yeah, there will be some personalities that walk through your door that you have to pause and consider whether or not you're going to be able to really do your job.
Well, Courtney, thank you for spilling the tea.
Anything for you, Kevin.
Gave me what I wanted finally. How can people find you?
Sure. So I'm a huge LinkedIn user. So please find me on LinkedIn, Courtney Stanley, easy to find. I'll pop up right away. You can also find me on other social platforms like Instagram at Courtney on Stage. And you can check out my website, courtney-stanley.com.
Thank you so much for your stories, your insight. It's kind of interesting to see that your first 90 days were exactly what you do. Like, even today, if you were to start over. Hopefully a lot of the audience gets a lot of insight from that. Thank you so much for coming on to the show.
That's it for this episode of Career Coaching Secrets. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this episode to catch future episodes. This podcast was brought to you by Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, or even $100,000 weeks, all without burning out and making sure that you're making the impact and having the life that you want. To learn more about our community and how we can help you, visit joinpurplecircle.com.